When the garden basil is booming, sometimes they can hardly keep up. But we're going to make some fresh basil pesto today and use up a big batch of this basil. So the first thing I like to do is pick all my basil. I don't worry so much about when it has just started to get ready to seed, but it hasn't quite made the flower yet. These are okay to pick at this time. And all I'm going to do is go through and pick off some of the tops, throw the leaves in there. And this harder woody stem, I'm going to discard. These are just going straight into my salad spinner. I'll give these a good rinse and then we'll be ready to make our pesto. Some of these leaves that have a little scabbing on it or a little dryness, I'll just discard those. If it just has a little tear or a little nibble out of it, I don't worry about that so much. Okay, I have rinsed and spun my basil. I need about 4 cups of basil. And so think about it as a good handful is a cup. You don't have to measure this out perfectly. If I take a good handful and place it into my cup, it's about a cup. We're going to start with our garlic. And for this recipe, because there are so few ingredients and you want the freshness of everything, start with some really nice fresh garlic. We're going to use 2 cloves of garlic in here, but if you love garlic, feel free to add more. I'm actually going to use 3 cloves because this one's nice and big and plump, and these 2 are a little bit on the smaller end. I'm going to put these right into my food processor. And we're going to start with just the garlic cloves, just slightly mashed, and I'm going to pulse just a little bit so that they're broken up and not in full chunks anymore. And we're going to add our basil right in. Give the basil a little pulse. And now we're going to start adding our olive oil. We need about a half a cup of olive oil, and we're just going to drizzle it right through the funnel while our food processor is going. Right now, we just need to add our final few ingredients. We're going to use pine nuts, and we just use a 1/4 cup of the pine nuts, but pine nuts are very expensive, so you can add half of that amount. You could also use another type of nut, like walnuts work really well, or you can just leave the nuts out altogether. It makes a little different consistency and a little different taste, but it's still super delicious because you've got all that basil and garlic in there. Another thing you could do is if you reduce the amount just by a bit, you can toast these just lightly and that brings out the flavor of the pine nuts. And then we're adding some Parmesan cheese. About 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/4 of a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. Put the lid back on. And we're just going to pulse until it all comes together. Needs 1 more scrape down. You can decide what consistency you would like your pesto to be. You can still see I have a few chunks of Parmesan cheese in there. You can see the textures of the pine nuts, the garlic, and the basil. To me, this is about the perfect consistency. You can go a little bit more if you'd like it to be a little bit more cohesive. Okay, my pesto is completely done. This is so perfect to use right away. You can use it on chicken or pasta, garlic bread. If I'm making large batches of pesto, I will often freeze this pesto and use later. And all I do is place small amounts. Usually I'll take about half a cup portions and freeze it in freezer safe containers. And then I'll just drizzle a little bit of olive oil over the top. Just gets a little extra layer of protection on the pesto and helps it from browning too much. This is just going straight into my container. Just look at the texture of this pesto. It has little chunks of garlic, Parmesan, pine nuts, and all that super fragrant basil. This is going to be perfect in so many dishes. You can find this recipe and more at Beyond the Chicken Coop.